Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Today's webinar will be about painting using real-life references in Clip Studio Paint. Hashtag plein-air Challenge 2022, presented by Mariana Noronha. Before we begin the webinar, there are some housekeeping items that we'd like to go through. The webinar will be approximately 1 hour long. All attendees will be muted. Question and answer session will be during the last 15 minutes of the webinar. Attendees can ask questions in the GoToWebinar question box right away. Due to time constraints, not all questions will be answered. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared on social media and will be sent via email to all registrants and attendees. The panelists for this webinar are Mario Quiñones, myself, Joanna Brower, and Mariana Noronha. For those of you who connect with us for the very first time or have never heard about Clip Studio Paint, Clip Studio Paint is your all-in-one solution for stunning, ready-to-publish illustrations, comics, manga, and animations. Learn more at clipstudio.net/n and graphicly.com. Also, we want to invite you to participate and interact with us through your Instagram stories. We'll share your Instagram story if you tag us with #webinar at Noronhatastic, at Graphicly, at Warrior Paintings, at Wacom, and at Clip Studio Official. Mariana Noronha is a visual development artist for animation. At present, she's now working as a background artist on an animated TV series for 16 South. Over the years, she has provided colorful and bubbly content on multiple freelance productions, animation pitches, and illustrations. She hosts as regular plein-air painting events at Warrior Paintings. And with that, I'll leave you with Mariana and her presentation, Painting Using Real-Life References in Clip Studio Paint, and the Challenge 2022 #plein-air. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Awesome. You should all be seeing my screen now. Hello, Mariana. I'm very happy to be with you today. Like Mario said, I'm a visual development artist. I'm Portuguese, but I work in the UK. I'm currently working as a background artist, and I've done work for different projects, from animation pitches to onto like illustration and all different kinds of stuff. I would say that my art, in the words of my good friend Michelle, is very bubbly and wonky, much like my personality, and it's something that is very important to me, because I need to have a personal connection in order to make the things that I do. So this painting, for instance, I was back home with my partner when we were with my family as well, just driving through the mountains, and they were very happy memories for me. So this was a thing that I clinged on to and made this image happen. And likewise, I'm also very interested in listening to my friends' stories. So I'm always happy whenever they go on holiday, that they tell me their adventures and they show me their pictures, because I get much more of a connection to these little moments. I'm also very emotional and a person, very dramatic, and this manifests in my art. So I really like to think about mental health, about what happens in my daily life, and this is how things that are more like anxiety-based pieces come to be. And I think there's also beauty in those things, and we should be talking about these themes. I really love creating stories. I would say that what I really love to do is to create worlds. World building is really important to me, and some of the things that really make it come alive are the little things. So you can relate to someone that is in a spaceship more because of the way that they go about and do their day, rather than piloting a spaceship, because I'm going to bet that most have not piloted a spaceship, but you all make breakfast every day and you all water your plants if you have any. So I would say that my work is very slice of life based. And these are the things that I really love to cling on to. I love plein air painting because it gets me grounded. So if I'm working, I'm in the zone, I'm getting all this work done, like in this project that already exists. But when I'm doing plein air painting, I'm out on the street. I love just setting up my easel and being one with the world. I love that people come and talk to me, because I really I'm grounded, and I'm feeling everything around me. I'm feeling the movement of the street. I'm listening to the cars, people having a chat, and this is something that really makes me feel alive. And this is what I really want to see in art, and I really love seeing other artists do. So this love for plein air painting is something that I found out actually after joining Warrior Painters. And Warrior Painters is a community of artists that was established in 2016, and essentially is a bunch of really nice folks that really love plein air painting and entertainment art. I didn't do much plein air painting before joining, but everyone was so happy about it, so excited to do it, that it got me doing it as well. And here I found like a community that really cheers each other on, and not only just painting, but on top of painting sessions, we have portfolio reviews, we have crit sessions, we have podcasts, we have all these sorts of things that really helps you grow as an artist. It started out as weekend plein air painting sessions in LA and SSF, but with the pandemic that we all know, it had to go online, and this actually opened a lot of doors, and that's how yours truly, based in the UK, got to join this amazing community. And on top of this, we actually started Warrior Art Camp, which is a platform for sharing skills. So you can learn anything from traditional painting to background design to figure drawing to anything you can imagine. And there's always something coming in, and the best that you get on top of your own personal and artistic growth is the community that comes with it. It really helps you grow in every single way. And on top of all these awesome things, there are two big challenges every year. So there's Coast Guard in December, and now there's Plein April that's about to start tomorrow. And what is Plein April, you say? It's a challenge in which everyone tries to make a painting every day during April. And it initially started as a way to celebrate Earth Day and really get you out there. But it has evolved into so much more. I think of it as an art marathon, and I try to make not a masterpiece every day, but just a painting every day. And every year, I just go through the whole thing. It's challenging, that's why it's a challenge. But at the end, I'm just so proud of all the progress I've made, and everyone that has taken part in it will know the feeling. And on top of that, there are exhibitions as well, so you do have a chance to get your work out there and in the spotlight. So yes, please do check the rules. If you go to Warrior Painters, you can learn all about it. And on that bombshell, I'm going to show you how I do art. So I took this picture. I didn't take this picture, I'm sorry. It's from the web, but it's from Porto. And it's a city that I really, really love. And back in the day, I thought, okay, really love the city. It's a place that I go to and I hang out with friends. It's usually passing by. So it's a place where I feel very happy and very excited. I have big memories of jumping into public transport and just trying to find my way around. I am very unlucky with public transport, so it really, really is an adventure for me. yeah, so what I did a few years ago when I didn't know better, I just looked at the reference image and I just copied. This was Mariana the printer, and I was not really thinking about what I wanted to say. I just saw a tram, I saw a church, and I just put it down. It's just very grey, washed out, and you don't really know if I'm talking about the tram, if I'm talking about the church. It almost like blends in, and there's not much of a sense of depth. Like you have almost the same values here as you have here, and that was because I was not asking myself these questions like, oh, what do you want to do, Mariana? So after a few years and a few workshops and classes, I started to ask myself these questions. So I started thinking, okay, what do I want to say? What do I feel like? I felt happy. So let's get these blues in. Let's get this saturation up. And another important detail is that cameras will deceive you. So if you look at the picture carefully, right, you can see a casted shadow, like really strong. What this means is that the sun is shining. And if you zoom in, you see that people are wearing short sleeves. They're wearing tees, and some people have like some light jackets on. So this tells me it's spring. If it's spring, I can tell you the sun is not going to look like this. So do not believe everything that your camera tells you. So thinking about these things, I then pushed my colors, really got them vibrant. It's not blue, it's blue. Make a statement. And I was thinking of the sense of adventure as well, like going places. So I, instead of just camouflaging the tram tracks like you see here, I really made them the main character. So they're here. Let's have this diagonal cutting through. And I want the tram to be the star. So I really took time to build the shape. So instead of just making this blob that's over here, I really took the time to chisel and to dig into the shape to really give it a personality. I love the mechanical feeling of the and just the sense of traveling. Then as a secondary focus, it's the city that I love. So we have this beautiful architecture in Portugal, and right here you see like a blob of gray. But here you see how I see it. I see this beautiful limestone, like all these carvings and this sense of energy that it brings to me. And this was a big thing for me because this means happy times. This just means a blob of unintelligible mess. So essentially is that like if you are painting from life or from a picture, first take like 2 minutes, sit down and ask yourself what am I looking at? And from there, then you can organize your painting. And I will show how I did it on another one. So this painting was inspired by my friend Ollie's holiday. He had gone to Italy and was sharing his beautiful pictures, and I just fell in love with it. So me being Mediterranean, I'm used to these little moments throughout the day. We have coffee a lot. If you've been to Italy or Portugal, you will see a coffee shop in every corner, and you bump into a friend, you'll have a cafe. Like, qu'est-ce cafe? Like, yeah, you're gonna go and have a cafe. And what I was thinking about when I was doing this painting were the little moments that take us away from our busy lives. I just love the way that these people here just stop in the middle of the road and have a chat. It seems like it was sunny back then. It was a sunny, it was like a late summer photograph, and I just really wanted to get that heat, like the hottest moment of the day, like that sizzling heat feeling, where everyone is just trying to stay in the shade, and you can hear the birds going zzz, like that little buzz that you hear in Ghibli films. So in order to do that, first of all, I really got the sky on like a higher value to really get the contrast. So I exposed for shadow because everything important is happening in the foreground. Another thing that I did when I was painting this back building, I made it smaller. I used a wider lens for this. This means that the background, the foreground is bigger in frame and everything else is more deformed. This was because I wanted attention to go here and not here. I also made the ceiling height shorter, so this you will have to jump to touch the ceiling, and on this one you probably can just stretch out and touch it. This is because this is a focus and this is just for context. Also an important thing is that you don't need to paint everything you see. I just wanted to give the feeling of, oh, there's windows. So I didn't go and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. I just put a smudge there, boom, you know that there are windows there. Sorry. Then that's it for the setting. When it comes to this part, I wanted this playfulness and this happiness of this little moment that we take. So I went on the architecture. I took a really good look at it and really loved these elements. So when I jumped onto this one, I really extruded them out, make them chunky. So you have a little bit of extrusion, make it bigger. And I did this for all of these. This part of the banister is quite complex. So what I did, I just made it simpler, just a little lozenge, and really made it chunky. And the idea comes across just as well. Then to add to the playfulness, I made a tree just with pizza shapes, like a pizza slice tree. I'm quite proud of that. Yeah, so this is all about this little moment, this little conversation. So I gave the car a pop of color. So you had this really intense red that's balanced out with this turquoise. And then you just have this moment that these two characters are sharing. I'd like to include characters, even though I'm not a character designer, because everything is made to the scale of the character. Yeah, and we're all people, and stories are usually about people or animals or something that we can relate to. Yeah, so we just went from the Mediterranean to the UK, and for me, moving to the UK, coming from such a colourful and bubbly place was quite an experience, because I was used to buildings popping up like mushrooms, and I just moved to a place where they just look all the same, and it's just so grey every single day. So when I go out and do plein air painting, I have a mission, which is to bring as much color as I possibly can, while still giving out the feelings of overcast and the actual time that to actually show what it was like. So I really love this antique shop in this in Albert Road. It's like a big road that exists in Portsmouth. And I look at it and I think, wow, it sounds like the place in a video game that I would go into and be given a quest. So I really love the contrast that these lights have with the dark interior. So I get this sense of mystery, and it welcomes you in, but it still has this kind of like slightly whimsical, ominous feeling. And I really wanted to play with that. So again, I used a wider lens, which makes this part bigger and the things that are further away from the camera smaller. Went from there, then did a similar thing that I did before. I really looked at the details of the architecture, like these little extrusions that you have on where the roof meets the facade, and really played with those, simplified them and extruded them out. And then made sure that these lights are the lightest part of the painting, so that there's no doubt that is the focal point. This is where I want our adventurer to go. And another important thing, especially when everything is grey in a place like Portsmouth, is to see the color in greys. So I will look at the floor, look at the tarmac, look at the facade, and it's all white or grey. But looking here, I see that it's actually warmer than here. You think it's all grey, but you can actually play with some dragging this thingy thing more towards the, oh no, you didn't see that, towards the reds. So you can have like a more red kind of hue, and then you can play on the other direction. You can bring it more towards the greens and the turquoises in order to give that variety. So it's no longer just a gloomy gray painting. It's actually something much, much richer than that. And this one was actually also in Portsmouth, and it was done during Plain April, and during the most difficult week of Plain April for me, which is week 3, where I'm just, help me, I need to get through. So I just played it easy. Like I say that storytelling is very important, and it is, but it doesn't mean that you need to have a quest in every single painting. Sometimes your story may just be, this is a really nice building, and this is why I like it. So this one was just about the building and how much I like it. I really love this wood beam Victorian architecture, so I made it the focus of the painting. Then I really wanted these other parts to be like an accent, and instead of just making it red, I made it red and really saturated it and played with temperature as well, just so that it emphasizes the middle section. And even within the middle section, I did the same thing again. So I like to play it to give pops of more turquoise or more blue and make it richer in that way. So it really doesn't need to be complicated. Okay, so you want something that looks detailed and looks resolved. You don't want something that looks complex and full of detail just for the sake of it. And this is something that took me a really, really long time to come to terms with. With time, you will find out the right balance of these things. And yeah, so now I'll just do a very quick doodle and show you how I use Clip. If you know me, then I will have recommended Clip to you, because that's the thing I do. Just, Clip is so cool for painting. I actually didn't know that I could do decent drawings until I tried Clip digitally, because it always looked wonky. So how I would start, I would go on the pencil too. I really, really love the rough pencil brush, and I would sketch it out. So I'm gonna do a cube. It's really nice. And keep it really loose. If I just go on and paint something, it's going to not be as bold as if I had sketched it first, but that is me. That doesn't apply to everyone. So this is my sketch masterpiece, I know. I would, if I were to ink it, I would just dial the opacity down, add another layer, and what I would do, I would bring the texture down, and I would bring the stabilization up. It was already up a little bit because I am very shaky, and this way I would go in and really make really nice and tight line art. But it is not what I'm doing today, because I really love painting lineless. So now I'm on the brush tool, and I really love gouache. So I'm just going to go in and put down a little cube. So just very quickly that. So that's the front face. Then I do the same for the side, and then again for the top. So what I put down right now is what you call the local color. So if you find yourself going to IKEA and looking at this amazing, the display rooms, and you think, wow, my room would look really cool in green. So you buy yourself a green paint, and then you paint your living room. Then the night falls and it gets really dark, but then you start thinking, oh, it looks darker, but it's still green, because I remember painting it green. So there's a difference between the color you see and the color of the object itself. So this is what we call local color, and it's what it looks like with like diffuse white light. So I'm going to put down a place, just a little table, because light will be changing according to the place where things are at and according to the weather conditions and everything. So it's just easier. Right. So what I would do now, the way I do things, I will do just a soft diffuse. So the top usually is the lightest one. So I would go in and I would clip a mask onto it. So just do a new layer, click on there, and then the transparency is locked. And I would touch it, just a color pick. I'm just pressing down Alt and bring it down and make it a little bit cooler. So a bit towards the green, a bit towards the blue, and then bam, bam, bam. So how do I know if it's the right value? I go and add a correction layer and then bring down the saturation so that I can see exactly the values. So this is more or less what I want. And I'm going to go and do the other one. So when it comes to the sides, it doesn't really matter like which one you choose to make darker, as long as you keep it consistent. So this one is the darkest one. So now I'm going to do one that is slightly lighter and then paint it in as well. It's blending a little bit with the background, so I'm just gonna, there we go. Looks weird. Yeah, I really like to work from different, not white, because I'm very sensitive to light, and if you're working digitally, you should also be very careful with that. Yeah, so I would take out my guide. And what I would do now, I would just do a little shadow, because you cast a shadow when the object meets the surface. So I would bring this down and just do it a little bit underneath. So if I leave it like this, it means that there's a very strong light coming from above, and that's not what we want. So there's this really cool thing called color mixing, and I like to just paint it over, because you get a little bit of diffuse, but it doesn't go all the way like an airbrush. I really love the textured feel of things. So just make it a little bit softer. So yeah, now you feel that's more diffuse. So I would add just a little touch. You don't need a lot of detail to make something look believable. So I would color pick it. Then I would just bring it down a little bit and make it a little bit cooler. And I just add a little smudge. And this is how I start adding texture. So usually the way I see texture, it is the way that the light hits the surface. So you just think about the things that are happening, and then where there are areas of higher contrast, that's your opportunity to give hints of texture as well. Cool. Yeah, so this is more or less the chunky way in which I paint and I show texture as well. So now I'm going to add a direct source of light. So let's just say that I open the window somewhere over here. I'm gonna change back to pencil, and it is hitting it. Oh no, it's saving. My computer is betraying me. Fantastic. Yeah, so the way I work, I always need to think about things in space. So if you have lighting, it has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just pop. So we have light source coming more or less from this direction, so from there, right? So I think about the window. So let's imagine it's the sunset and it's coming through your window. It's really projecting this really beautiful light inside. So I see the edge of the window about there and about there. And then always important, in the words of Angela's song, always draw through your objects, because you should. And then you can map out where the light is going to go. So it kind of comes from here and then it projects. And I will know that the light, it's coming from this angle. So it bounces here and then follows more or less the same angle. And this is where the shadow is going to end. So there, then you have light again. And I'm just going to extend the table so that's a bit easier to see. There you go. There we go. Yes. Now I've done my classic, which layer did I use? There we go. Okay, cool. So now I know how my light is going to work. So I'm just gonna do the easiest first. So just gonna create another layer. Oh, wrong button. Another layer, clip it on. And this time I want something that is warmer. So about that, yeah, that sounds good. So this is the angle at which the light is hitting the table, about there and there. So I'm just following the calculations that I did. Now, when it comes to the actual cube, where is he? Over here. I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to clip it. Then I pick it again, and I go a little bit higher. Okay, this is the time that I'm going to check the values. So I want this to be really, really bold. So I'm going to go even higher because I want it a little bit brighter than the table. There we go. Oh, actually, no, this couldn't be because it's not my lightest surface. So I will bring it a little bit further down and do the same thing on this face. Then I would go on the top face, which is this one. Same thing, I would add another layer, clip it on top, and then paint it and make it significantly higher. There we go. That's what we want. Yeah, now I can turn down the sketch, and that's essentially how it would look like. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So now that the bare bones are there, I would go in. Oh, actually, straighten. So yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of layers. This happens a lot while I work. So I would lock transparency, and like I said before, the way I add texture is by just coming in and think about how the light is going to affect it, and do the same thing on the top. So this is essentially the same procedure that I was doing beforehand. And over there, I like to just lock transparency and paint on top of it. I don't really do that when I'm working during the day, like for animation, because things have to be very, very tight and very different. But this is just a plein air painting. I'm doing it for myself. Now the last little touch is to like come in, and I have like a very strong beam of light. So if I actually just come in and why aren't you working? Ah, yes, because it's the wrong layer. Fantastic, guys. Remember to be on the wrong layer. Do not scream at the program when it's your fault. So this is where like really strong beams of light connect. So it would really show how it would show the texture. So if you light a spotlight where the shadow meets the light, this is where you can really add detail. You don't need detail here, but if you're going to do it in the areas that can actually see it, because that will save you time tremendously. And the same thing over here. Yeah, that is the gist of how I paint it. Then if I was feeling lucky, like Google, I would come in and start adding some more color variations. So if there was like a strong beam of light over here, the light would bounce up. So it would make this part of the cube a little bit stronger and like lighter. So I would just give it a smidge, and it's just an opportunity to give it a little bit of more warmth over there. And yeah, that's the same thing I was doing in the previous paintings. So just look at something that's gray, and just find a way to make it more rich and colorful. Yeah, so on that bombshell, I'm now going to show how I use this method on an actual demo. Whenever I paint, I really love this tool called the Subview because it keeps all of your reference in one place. I usually have like really big inspiration boards, and what happens is I have to look for something that's here, and then I'm doing something else, and there's a picture here, and it just becomes a bit messy. So I really love the Subview tool because you just pop your stuff on there, and then you flick between, and it's just very, very practical and fantastic. So I would say there's not much to it. I just really love my brush tool, my pencil tool, and I will just use magic wand and lasso as well, like magic wand from W, L for lasso, and essentially use layers and clipping them onto each other. So you just clip them, create new layers, and you clip them on. And the way I pick color, so you may have noticed I have these color sliders on. It's because whenever I'm painting, I'm thinking about it as if I were actually using traditional. So I will look at this and think, ooh, it's too warm. I need to add a turquoise. And the way I do it digitally, I just get a color slider and think, okay, let's pop it off to turquoise, more there. And what this does, rather than just using correction layers like multiply and overlay to just make my whole painting, this makes it much more richer and much more wonky. I do use blending modes, but mostly for corrections and adjustments to, you know, just if things are not right, I may use like, for instance, if everything is green, like a multiply green at a low opacity just to keep things a bit more cohesive, but it's not per se what I use to paint. I like to paint with like raw pixels. Yeah, so this is how Clip makes all my dreams come true. And I'm now going to show how I work. So this is, again, a photo in Portsmouth. And it's always this kind of weather, just like kind of overcast, raining-ish. So this was the painting that I'm going to be showing. And yeah, so I really liked this painting, particularly painting this photo, because there was a sense of like something going on. And by the way, as soon as I started, I wasn't sure where I was going with it. Like I felt like there was someone was just asking to be over here. So you have this sense of in public transport, you have a lot of paths intertwining. Like you have people that would not meet otherwise, that have very different lifestyles, but it's somewhere everyone has in common. So I started having this idea of someone who is getting ready for a date, very excited but very scared at the same time. And you know, you have this feeling that we all know, just super excited, but anxiety is getting in the way. And I do have anxiety, and the way I see the world when I'm anxious is just very, very angular, very pointy, very stressed. I walk around the streets and I think the trees are frowning at me. So I like to play with those feelings. So as I was sketching this, I was thinking, how can I make this shape language really highlight this tension? And you're waiting for a bus. Could be this bus, could be the next one. Am I going to be late? Where is this bus? Now the service is cancelled. All this flurry of emotions. And I struggle a little bit with, not struggle, but it's something I need to think about, designing. Color, I usually say that I paint with the heart, but I design with the brain. So I always make sure to draw things out first and then use the transform tool, like Control T, to push my proportions to use more big, medium, small shapes. And this is what I was doing here. Then once I added the street lamp there just to really heighten this sense of anxiety spotlight. Everyone's looking at you. What are you doing? And then from there, I just keyed in like some basic color harmonies. I always say that if it doesn't work in 2 colors, then it's not going to work in 50. I like to take my sweet time making sure that these 2 colors work. And the specific case, it's this like reddish coral red against this more like green, like somewhere between, it's a green, it's not turquoise, but you know what I mean. And once I felt like those were working, I started subdividing and adding some more darker ones. So this all dark value is all the same hue. And I actually have the initial color key on the subview as well. So if I'm rendering, I'm focusing on rendering. I use the color key as a way to keep track of the whole painting while I'm doing things. So I will do details in passes. So it will start, as you see me going throughout the painting, I'll define this shape here, then I'll define this shape like further up on the bust, and I'll move on to the bust stop as well. And all the time making sure that I have not lost that initial concept that I had in the color key. The navigator panel is also really good for that. Something that I would love to do are vans and buses and cars. I was looking at my portfolio the other day, and I have a lot of cars in there and have no idea. But they're very tricky things. Machinery can get very, very complicated. So the way to paint it is to make it believable and not literal. So I will look at things, see the big shapes. So this bus is just a massive loaf of bread. So I just make this big loafy shape, and you start extruding. So you have a wheel in there. So I just make this little nook that goes inside, and really look at it and think about which shapes really pop out and exaggerate those, because you don't need every single bolt and nut in there to tell people it's a bus. And I do the same thing with characters. So I'm not a character designer, but like I said before, whatever you're making, it's going to be used by someone, and it has to be to the scale. So I do the same thing. Just think about the big shapes, and they start dividing. I did spend a little bit more time on the character here because it is where I want you guys to look at. This is a story about this little lad that's late for a date and is really anxious. So this is where your eye first goes. Then the second place I want to go is the bus stop. It's the bus, so that then you understand, oh yeah, that's why he's anxious, like he's about to go, and there's this all of this uncertainty in the air. So I was doing the bus stop, and this one in particular, I kept feeling very tempted to do all of those details that you see on there. So I kept having to ask myself, what do I need? What will I see? It really helps to squint when you look at your reference image, because this way you will not see detail that is not necessary. So I just kept it to like a few variations, and whenever I have light, I kept it to the same reddish hue, much like what is happening in the picture. So even though I really exaggerate the lights, I use the reference picture to understand how the color. I use the ref picture to understand how things relate, how it behaves. So I will look at the lights. I'll see how they are bouncing off and emitting glow. I will look at how the shadows are behaving, where light is bouncing, because these are the things that really sell the painting. You can be as bold as you want with color. You just have to make it believable. It's not about it being hyperreal as much as it is about it being believable. So yes, went back in the bus because I had a pass of details, but it was not matched by the other elements. So I went on the other elements, and now I went back just so I don't lose track of the whole painting. And I really didn't need a lot of things. If you look at the reference picture, you have a lot of poles, you have lights, you have like hinges, you have the wheel, you have the driver, you have seats. There's so much in there, but you really don't need all that stuff to tell people that there's stuff inside and that it's a bus. I keep having to pull away and really think about which lines are going to say what. I really loved the little lines that go over the wheel and around the bus. So I used it to help depict the shape. And this is where I start more finer rendering. So I didn't have the clouds like I have on the painting. This was because I was thinking about the shape language that I used in the bushes, and I wanted to repeat it and give a sense of whimsy, but still with the shape hierarchy, just making it a bit uneasy. So it's happy, but like, help me, I'm excited, but I'm a bit scared. Yes, so it's the same thing. So you have color harmony and you have shape harmony. So I like to keep it really simple. So at the minute, I have like these sharp straight lines like around the area, just making the focus of the painting is this little lad that is very, very anxious about his date. And then around it, I have something that's softer, that's more bubbly and more gentle. This is because I want you to look at the painting in the foreground as well. Yes, so it is also important to know where to stop. Actually, a teacher back in high school told me, yeah, you can render really, really well, but that doesn't mean you have to. And it's something that really stuck with me. So it again goes back to that knowing what you're saying, and you don't need a whole hyper realistic painting to just say what you want to say. And then at the minute I'm doing the lights, so I like to block things in first and then start thinking more about the materials, because like I said before, texture shows depending on how the light hits the material. So if it's metal, if it's glass, it's going to have a reflection. If it's more polished, it's going to be crisper. If it's more rugged, it's going to be more diffused as well. Yeah, so that's essentially how I go about doing a painting. This one was a bit more stylized, but you don't have to do it stylized. You just have to go and ask yourself, what do you want to do and what you want people to look at. So that is it for me. That's how I use Clip Studio Paint to bring these illustrations to life. I'm going to hand it over to Mario or Joanna now for some Q&A, but thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you so much for all your explanation. I think this was such a nice overview of everything you do in these kinds of paintings. It's just, I think everyone really learned a lot already. So it was really nice. Also looking at your process, and yeah. So let's see what we got for questions. First of all, what inspired you to actually start drawing backgrounds over characters? Like, a lot of people like to draw characters more over backgrounds because backgrounds can be really intimidating. How was that for you?
Well, that is a good question. It took me quite a while, actually. So when I finished school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And a lot of people did know. I had to start making art and doing things because I wanted to. This is what I say to everyone. It took me a while to find myself and find myself as an artist. So I just had to pick up a brush and try things. I did try animation and I tried it quite a bit, and I was good. I was not great, and I could do things that looked good, but it did not give me a sense of satisfaction and happiness. I kept on thinking, I want to be drawing the design. I want to be drawing like the way things look. And then it made me realize, oh, actually, I'm more into the visual side of things. So I put animation aside after giving it a shot. It's really important to give things a shot, and really started pushing through. And every time I started doodling, I felt very drawn towards landscapes, towards buildings. I've always been a bit architecture nerd, and I really love doing those things. And just the way I look at things, I think about structure, I think about perspective. And my partner, who is a character designer, she looks at things and thinks, oh, gesture, movement. we are looking for different things. And yeah, so essentially how I found out I wanted to be a background artist, I had to start doing things and looking for the things that made me the happiest. And then I realized it was background art, but it does take its time. For some people more, for some people less. But yeah, that's essentially how it goes.
I think people are really interested in how long that roughly is, like how many years, if you want to disclose that.
Yeah, so I finished uni and it took me about a year after I finished it to realize this is what I really wanted to do. Yeah, in hindsight, it made a lot of sense because I've always been I wanted to be an architect when I was a kid, and I've always loved architecture. I really loved color. Whenever I paint, I like you guys see, I just put every single color on the canvas. Yeah. So it's a bit tricky. So from the moment that I knew I wanted to go into animation, so 2013. Okay, since I started uni until I realized what I really, really, really wanted to do was 4 years. Yeah, but again, there's really, really no rush. I had friends that I started uni with, and they were like, "I want to do this thing," and now they're doing the thing, and they're great at it. But that's the thing, like everyone is different, and it's important to, like, my girlfriend keeps on telling me this every single time: do not compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to yourself from the past, and that is the most true thing ever, because everyone is different, and it's because you're different that you actually matter in this industry, because everyone can learn to draw, but no one can have the same view of the world. So yeah, take your time. It took me about 4 years, I would say.
Yeah. There are probably some people who think that's really fast, but I mean, as you said, everyone's different. Everyone has their own pace. So
exactly.
That is definitely a thing. I think a lot of people are afraid of that, it actually takes a lot of work.
It does.
You talked about the stylization at the end, or in general, and there's a really good question. It's like, do you have an exercise to mentally prevent you from overworking a piece, or just looking at the bigger picture of how shapes work?
Yeah, that is a big one, and it's something that I keep in mind, because it's something that this year, it was my New Year's resolution. I need to get better at design and at simplification. So it's the same thing that I was saying on this one. I would squint at it, and actually the way I do things, I imagine that I'm describing the painting to someone. So I would look at it and say, oh, it looks like a loaf of bread. So I would go and draw a loaf of bread. And then, do I really need all of these like little details? Do I need to know that there's this thingy inside and goes inside again, and there's another beam? Like, no, you can just have like a little streak, and people will know it's a window. So yes, it takes a while, but just think about the big shapes and look to repeat it. So there's the 70-30 rule and shape design. So you're going to have like shape language, for instance, like all rectangles for 70% of the painting, and then you have an accent of circles, for instance. And the way I simplify this, for instance, on this tram, I would go with rectangles, and instead of just making all sorts of different shapes, I would try to keep everything a rectangle, and really do not zoom in too much. Keep on zooming back out, and then asking yourself, your painting will be looked at from this certain distance. If you can't see it from this distance, then you don't need it. Even though I can still see like these like little details, I don't need them. If this were not there, I would still know it was a tram. So it's a good thing to do studies and just try to use as little shapes as possible, and really try, like, each time use less shapes until you can get to that point and say, oh yeah, I can't take any more shapes out because or else it will not be recognizable. So this way, just really strip it down, simplify. It looks intricate, it looks interesting, but it does not need to look complicated and messy. So yeah, I would do that. Strip it away.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's always like a really hard thing to not focus on all the details, especially if you have like something like this church in the background and you're like,
Yeah,
there is so much nice architecture in there. I want to bring it in everywhere, and then you just get lost in detail.
exactly.
There, when you look at your final piece on this one, especially, you have like a lot of straight lines.
Uh-huh.
But you don't seem to use like any rulers or so. Is it
No.
just the colors that you go with in terms of drawing lines?
So people that know me, I can't do a straight line to save my life. Like I can't. Everything ends up round. So this crisp feel, if you
Yeah.
actually zoom in, it's not
Mm.
straight.
Yeah.
So I will go in and try to do them fast. And sometimes I will go and get the lasso tool if it absolutely needs it, and get it down, and then like hide it. If I really need it to be crisp. But I use the lasso tool more as an auxiliary one. So I will try to get a bit more of texture. So yeah, it's nice and textured. And
Mm.
for instance, do this, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the feeling of a straight line, but it's not completely straight. And this is what we're going for, because nothing in the world is a complete straight line. Everything is built, it has little dents. It would actually look more realistic if you have the corrosion of the metal and the ins and outs of the material itself. So yeah, and a lot of it looks straight, but it's not straight. Like, look at that, it's wonky. Wonk, wonk, wonk.
Yeah.
But it just feels straight. You don't need things to be literally straight. It
Mm.
would look straighter if it's wonky than if you drew it straight. And I know it sounds confusing, but it is true.
I think people are still like a little bit unsure on how you choose the colors, because
Right.
especially with the comparison.
Cool. I'm glad you asked that, because that's the most fun that I have. So if I were describing this painting, I would say I have an orange tram and I have a blue sky. So the way I do it, I go and make it blue. It's just as simple as that. When I was making this painting, actually, let me just hide this one. I had probably just this. Let me turn the color mixing on off. Just the sky, and then just actually a bit more like this. Just that. So it's just going back to that simplification
Yeah.
we had before, is to try and tell the image in the least information as possible. So I'm describing this to my friend, and I say, hey, the sky is really blue, and there is an orange tram in there. So, okay, I'm going to really push it. I will be honest, it takes me some experimentation, which I really like. So I would say it's the time that I spend the most in the painting, because if this doesn't work, nothing's going to work, right?
Mm.
So I have these, have my orange tram. Then depending on this main color, I will start dividing it. I will want, for instance, this little strip. So I know it's a higher value. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit and get a little bit more towards yellow, right? But it's still within that color family. So it's not disrupting the harmony. And now
Yeah.
likewise for the church, come in and then bring it up a little bit, because it's higher value, meaning that the church is lighter than the sky. I'm just getting it up just to show what I mean. Oh no, it made a layer. Oh no. Yeah, let me just get it back up. Yeah, cool. So you can see overall that it's lighter than the sky.
Mm.
So I will come in, and I do not want this to clash with the sky. I want them to exist in peace. So I bring it up like good siblings, and then put it down, right? And it's actually a shade of blue, but it's going to read as white.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean when I say like the color harmony. the big boss is the blue, and then you start dividing it. And if I come in and I shift things more towards the red, it's going to give me more like reddish hues without coming in, grabbing the red brush and going there, because this just destroys the harmony. If you wanted something to look red, I would go from the initial harmony I had and just shift it a little bit more, and then boom, that reads as red. But if you color pick it, it's like still orangey. So yeah, in a nutshell, I would think about, I'm telling my friend, this is blue, this is orange, and then I use that information to get my main harmonies down, and then I just start dividing it. So from this orange, I shift it a little bit more towards the yellow, and then I make this one a little bit cooler, but it's all within the same range. It's just not breaking the harmony, making them get along. These two clash, but these two don't clash with each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I see the loaf of bread now you were talking about before. Okay, I'm really sorry we're already getting to the end here. So I just wanted to ask if you have like one last advice for people who are just starting out and would like to get into this kind of painting. Any tips you have for beginners?
So the biggest tip I would say is to not compare yourself, is to do things because you like them. Look up like artists that you admire. Look at how they do things. Look to do workshops and courses in things that you like. If I could go back in time and tell me not to do something, I would tell myself to not do something just because other people have it in their portfolio, because ultimately you will be hired and you will succeed for the art that only you can do. So do not compare yourself, learn from other people, but then look at the world, take your own photos, get your painting supplies, sit down outside and look and ask yourself, how do I see this? I always say that it's important for me to look at how other people do things, but then I sit down and I think about how I see the world. How does Mariana look at this shirt? How does Mariana look at this tree? So you are an artist, you are bringing a vision into the world. So just ask yourself these questions and do things you like keep working hard, but do not forget that you can only tell stories if you have stories to tell. If you just sit down in your bedroom just painting all day, you will not have stories of traveling, not have stories of cooking, of meeting with friends. You have to go out there, have experiences, and then work hard to tell them. But don't forget yourself and do not compare yourself. You have your own vision of the world, and that's something that's beautiful.
Okay, thank you so much. And yes, let's give it back to Mario to do the final closing of the webinar.
Yes, so thank you so much, Mariana, for such an inspiring presentation. And also thank you, Joanna, for handling all of the questions. There were so many questions. Thank you so much to all the attendees who are still with us today. And just one last reminder to participate in this 2022 hashtag plein-air April challenge. More information, visit warriorpainters.com/plein-air. You will see all the details, prices, etc. So one last bit of information. This webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe to our Clip Studio Paint channel and Graphicsly. For more information about Clip Studio Paint, visit our website clipstudio.net/n and graphicsly.com. And of course, follow Mariana and Warrior Painters on Instagram, Noronha Tastic and Warrior Painters, and also on her website, mcnoronha.com. So with that, again, thank you so much, Mariana.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much, Joanna.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
And thank you also to anyone who participated in today's webinar. Stay tuned for more events and see you in our next webinar. So Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.